So, Scoopman, welcome in, sir. How you doing today?
Yeah, I am pretty well, thanks, Jamie.
Good
You
stuff.
are probably on top of the world after last week.
Oh, it's good fun. It was, I think, definitely my best highest score of the year, and I think it was probably the best rank change as well. So, yeah, very very happy about that. And yourself, mate, ended up 938. A few good scores in there, and a few obviously Ponga brought in Ponga last week. 1 week too early. Hey, this week's the ton week, right?
Yeah, this week's the week. Yeah, it was an all right week. 938, but yeah, moved up a tiny bit, but it's just all the 50s and 60s are in my emergencies. I should have benched Tedesco, Ponga, and Kai Pearce-Paul and just played all the others.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, we end up looping what Iro and hands, and unfortunately didn't get Fainu there, but yeah, well that probably you sneaks you up a 960s or something like that, hey. But yeah, Teddy one's a little bit frustrating. Two in the last 3 weeks, and then a bye. So,
Hmm.
but you got the Grant good one finally, which is nice.
Yeah, Grant was good. Cook was also amazing. If you had both, you'd probably just crack the
Oh,
1,000 for free anyway.
I haven't seen the double, but yeah, that'd have been cool. And then Jai Great add to it as well. It would have been a maybe that was the squads that got 1100 there. I saw some
Yeah.
good ones out there, that's for sure. But mate, how many trades left?
I'm still same as last week. I'm still sitting around 5 trades.
Okay.
So I'm actually now primed to make some interesting moves in this run home. A little bit of luxury. But yeah, well, it's another week of not really a lot happening to my squad. So I've got no Elias Katoa out. I've got no Bo Fermor out or anything like that. So I now have the decision: do I make a luxury trade and turn like a Kai Pearce-Paul or a Sipley into another mid like Murray. But then again, Murray didn't get the most amazing score either. So yeah, it's a bit of a funny week. Do I hold off or not?
Yeah, well, you can do a few things, right? Because both your guys not playing are on bye, which is cool. Maybe would you think of maybe looping in that first couple of games and just seeing what scores pop up, maybe?
Yeah, potentially. If there's some good scores that I don't need to uh avoid and I can just chuck them in without losing anything from a guy who's got a different player, that's great. If they knock out another 23, like Kai Pearce-Paul, then it's yeah, do I make a decision to bring somebody in with one of my other guys to maybe gain 30 points on that and just better security as well?
Yeah. Have you got any confidence with Carpi's Paul against Tigers this week, or it's just fallen off a bit, hasn't
This is sort of the last straw for him. If
he?
he
Yeah.
hits out another 30, it's probably buy for him. He's back down to pretty much his starting price, unfortunately. A bit frustrating. But yeah, he plays better when Pong is there, but it was Panthers last week. So I wasn't expecting a 23 from a forward playing 80
No.
minutes, but it will happen sometimes against the Storm or the Panthers.
Yeah, definitely. And mate, we're just going to go through a little bit of strategy here for, I suppose, all of the different trade numbers and what we think you guys should do in those situations. And we're going to go through a little bit of the Bundy mixer best picks of the week as well. So some from the male side and the female side as well, which will be good fun. So, mate, with you at 5 trades, you did mention that was a really cool thing a couple of weeks ago there of having probably exact amount of trades as to how many rounds left. So you're in that situation now with 5 and 5.
Hmm.
Do you see that's where you could probably make that one trade this week and maybe try and get a little bit of an extra score?
Yeah, I think as you said, it's probably a really good strategy to loop a couple of guys you're not too sure with and see if they're going to do all right. Like I need a mid. Watson and Sipley are away, and I've either got to get a decent Fanny score and put that in, or if he hits another 30, then I can consider bringing in like a Cameron Murray or somebody to score 50 or 55 for me for that run home and just bring somebody in who isn't going to be away in round 27 like Adam Fanua Blake.
Mm. Yep. I like that. Yeah, that's a good call. I'd be looking to do that for sure. And myself with 3 trades, which a lot of the top 1,000 are. That's the average right now at 3.1. 3 and 5 trades still feels like a very low number. And personally, I'd be looking to try and hold as much as you can, at least for this week. And then it might be a little bit harder because for the most part, outside of Payne Haas, the other guys that aren't playing this week are a little bit lower ownership. But I'm sure there are going to be, a couple of big injuries to highly owned players over the next few weeks. So I think if you can get through this week unscathed, then maybe you could use a trade next week, right? Is that probably where you're at if you're at 3?
I think that's about right. I think you probably want to hold on to those last two whenever you get to two, until something happens, unless it's like second last round or something. So if you go down to two and sit for a couple of weeks, I'm pretty happy for that to sort of happen. Yeah, it's luxury moves if you're sitting around that and want to do heaps now. But yeah, moving forwards, probably you can make that one last trade before you just save it for injury, and around 27.
Yeah. I think in my scenario, just have a little think. All goes normally, hold this week, 1-1-1, and then have none left for round 27. I think
Mm.
probably the best. Just I think if you're making the trade, like some a few of the guys had mentioned, potentially like saving it multiple, like 2, 3, 4 for that
Mm.
final round. I just don't think you're gonna get enough points from that 1 week. Whereas if you're picking someone that you know is going to play the second last and the last round, definitely they're not a rest risk. Like they're, it's a DCE or something like that. If they're fighting for the 8, he's not going to rest. So better to get
Yeah.
those points in either the third last round or the second last round rather than waiting just to see who gets named. Are you in the same
Yeah,
boat?
that's a very good point. And compiling that with what I was saying before, if I bring in somebody to replace somebody on a buy and gain 20 points there, if I brought that person in so that they'll be there in round 27, I then get another 20 or 30 points. Or if I'm not making 17, maybe 40 or 50. And all of a sudden, instead of just getting that 40 or 50, you've made 60 or 70 plus whatever bonus they made you in the
Mm,
meantime. So it could end up being double the value if you pick a player who you know is going to be there and manages to stay there.
yeah. Yeah, definitely a fine balance, isn't it? You do it 3
Yeah.
rounds out, you get the
I think,
benefit of those next two plus the last week. If you do it now, yes, you might
yeah.
get benefit for the next few weeks, but if you get too many injuries, then you'll lose out later, right?
Yeah, it's a tough one to strike. You've got to tread the line very carefully, and that can change at any time depending on how the footy pans out for the week.
Yeah.
But yes, I think what you said, the looping positionally to see if you're going to buy someone is probably a really good strategy moving forward with this low trades heading into the last few rounds.
Yeah, and you and I have both got the same two guys out this week in Watson and Teddy, and I just give you a little bit of a thought on where I'm at. I've got lots of Rabbitohs, and I have Sean Bloor as well. So they're all in that first game. So I'm going to have all of those decisions made in that first game for me. So whether I
Mhm.
do Gray and Whiten or Gray and Bloor, whatever it is, I'm going to have those decisions done, and then I can yeah, I can decide on obviously my emergencies from there. And if you've got guys like yourself with Brendan Hands, he can get a 50, like 52, like he did last week. He could get a 40 pretty comfortably. Like if things don't work out with those players, you can easily just play them and go, no, that's fine. Or if they get a 40 odd, you're leaving these guys in the pine, and you're like, oh wow, they might actually outdo that. So is that extra 5 or 10 points I might get from Murray? He got 43 last week. Is it actually worth it, or is that extra trade saved going to be better? Or is there a guy potentially that you can get up to that is a big improvement? Probably hard, isn't it? Because looking
Yeah.
forward in your
It,
team, go on.
it depends who you're replacing them with, really, as to
Mm,
how big that gap is. So yeah.
yeah, and you can get unlucky too. Like Hands can hit a 52, but maybe the week that you play him, he gets a 28, or they get a concussion or something like that. That's where the looping's really cool. But going forward to next week, with you not having any Broncos, that makes looping obviously harder. And you might, with two that, you get Watson and Teddy back. If you do have an injury or two, you probably don't have to trade next week either, because you'd have those two coming back to cover those losses. So
Mm.
the big thing here is, I suppose the big one this week is the mid position. Tarpany, Carrigan. I think that both are going to score pretty similarly. Carrigan, you miss next week. But if you're in a situation like yourself, is it actually smarter to get Carrigan so that you can loop next week?
That's a real good one, hey.
And he's a little bit safer, right? He's a slightly safer playing 80 minutes compared to Taps, who is a little bit more up and down.
Yeah,
So
when do Broncos play? Saturday mid. Okay. Seagulls play before that. And Tigers play. Late. Okay, so I'd have to pick before Fainu
This week you're
if I
talking
was going
about?
to throw.
Yeah.
If I was going to go with Carrigan this week for a mid replacement.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. Well, that's the thing where you can't loop Fainu then because he's in the last game.
Yeah.
So you'd need to loop. Oh, but were you thinking of maybe selling Sibley, hey?
Yeah, it's a bit of a tough one.
Yeah, okay.
Which guy do you sell?
Gotcha.
Because
Yeah.
they all of the guys who you wanted to sell redeemed themselves last week, and then 80-minute guys that you possibly want to hold on to uh, spilled the beans and got 23 for like Kai Pierce Paul. And Nickera now with no Hines is also starting to get really annoying.
It's a weird one, but because he has had a couple of really good games without Hines too.
Mm,
But he just
mm.
has these. He had 330s in a row before, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm glad I didn't get him. And then he went 470s. I was like, oh, no, I want Nickera.
Maybe he's due for a couple more 60s and
Yeah,
70s. That'd be good.
yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, so maybe that's a tough one for you with the mids actually. So you might just have to make that call and go for it because you don't want to risk like a Fainu 30. I don't think in your scenario
No.
with the
Yeah.
5 trades. I think because can you go simply to him one go?
I
Oh,
don't think
Murray.
so.
Oh, okay.
No, I'd have to move it around.
So maybe not then. Yeah, maybe that's a weird one. All right, something for you to ponder anyway, hey?
Mm.
That's for sure. All right, if you are at 7 trades, what's the play this week?
You make a trade to get a guy you really want, whether that's a Carrigan, um, probably not McInnes at hooker. McInnes at hooker is great, but not going to be there for ages.
Mm,
Or if you need to replace a Katoa, you can get somebody who not very many players have, like a DCE, like a potentially even a Val Holmes, I want to say, but like, yeah, not the right time, but you can have these extra players that not many players have. This is the time of year where a pod can really help you out if you think they're going to go on a good run.
Would you be fine going downgrade to Karapani and then going up to a top gun from like two of your Talangi, Sipley kind of range, leaving you with 5 for the last 4 rounds?
How much is Karapani? Like that could work.
237, he's yeah.
Oh
And then
yeah,
he's a looper
if you,
next week as well.
yeah, that's pretty decent. I
Yeah.
think that's not bad.
Surely he's got the spot over Corey Oates now, but he's had a tough little stretch, old Corey. Great career, but great career. But yeah, there's
Mm.
like just looking at the top 1,000 here. There's a lot of guys still with 7. That seems to be the number,
Yeah.
and that's very stretched out. Any
I don't know who's got
bunch of moves.
13 in 5 weeks. They've got 200, they've got 800 points to make up. So you probably could have used two or three of them to boost a little bit, left to
Chance they've.
charge a little late.
I think that person's been in the top 1,000 for a long time, but they seem to be getting lower and lower, so they might not be playing. Hey,
Mm,
interesting. But yeah, so it's a bunch of 7s, a few 8s there. So that's 6, 7 range. I think that's the move you can make. Probably that. It's someone
yep.
that can, is still a chance of playing after their bye, but is a looper next week. Um, and you could loop his score in. Like he seems to be about a 40 guy, good talent sort of guy. But he was the guy that was playing on the bench and scoring like 2 in 10 minutes and all
Seven.
that kind of fun stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, at least in our game compared to Supercoach, there it's you don't get that the auto emergency like the lowest score, so it's not a big issue
Mm.
for us here for sure. But yeah, fun little setup, mate. Let's just finish things off here for this video. Just a bit of strategy and then a little bit on the Bundy mixer. Mate, give us your chat on a couple games in now to the women's premiership. Who are the ladies to be targeting, and is there a certain position you think that can work better for them too?
Yeah, there's different points distributions between the men's and the women's a lot of the time because the game's played a little bit differently. Games often they often score a little bit less because the game's only 70 minutes and it's slightly slower. But yeah, so the main positions you want to be targeting for the women, if you don't know heaps about them, are the centers because they're can be very strong in attack. That's mostly just the Roosters duo Kelly and Sergis. They're
Mhm.
also playing basically uh, one of the weaker teams in the comp this week, so just stick one of them in.
Yep.
Possibly boost them, which is basically you get a boost, which is a captain for each. each of the NRL players and NRLW players.
Mhm.
Um, the main ones that you always want to chuck like an NRL player in are half. There's very, very few women's players that score more than 30 or 40 in the half. You just chuck Cleary in there and forget about it.
Yeah, basically.
Mid, yeah, mid, you've got a couple of players, Talfa, Georgia Hale, and I think Kennedy Charrington's also doing well, that have really, really good base stats and are scoring 60 as well. So you're not actually gaining much unless you hit a really big ceiling score. So those are the three positions you can lock in. Female mid, male half, and female center, and then the other three you can play around a little bit with. But yeah, you can see Georgia Hale. That's why she's one of the top mids. Absolute workhorse in
Mm,
defense. Taufa's also up there with 70. She runs a little bit more, gets occasionally a couple more tries than Hale. So it's about 60 average for the both of them.
lovely. Good stuff there on that one. And Raiders obviously had a good couple of first games there to start. 24 points for Zahara there.
Yeah, a couple of tries, couple of conversions as well, I think. I don't think she's typically a massive scoring for mixer and fantasy wise, but she does have a couple of good spike ceiling games in there.
Yeah, and obviously something to look at as well if they're a goal kicker, as we know there. But mate, in the med side, then is it Cleary locked in, and then muck around with the others? Are we going for like a Knights player this week? Is that where we're at? Do you reckon?
Uh Probably it's a very big debate as to whether to go Ponga versus Tigers or somebody like a Palit or Upton, potentially. Two of the best women's fullbacks averaging around 50-ish against weakish teams. But yeah, Ponga
Strong.
versus Tigers could get you extra 20, 30 points if he goes really, really well. And that might outweigh the difference between a 55, 60 point hooker in the men's and a 45, 40 points hooker in the women's. So it might be worth it if you think Kallum is going to go really big.
For sure. And I believe you're in a pretty good spot, are you?
Yeah, had a cracking week last week. It was nice to see only a couple of digits in front of my in front of my rank. But yeah,
Nice.
so I had
Where you
Cook
at?
last week, Hale who got about 70 for feeder, Cleary captain, Kelly with a 50-ish, and Palit with 60. So that was pretty much
Wow.
6 for 6. I think I was 10th for the round.
That's awesome. How and what I rolled then? That's 2 weeks in.
21, about 40
Oof.
points off the top.
Wow, that's awesome. So strategy wise for you then, is it a bit more taking a leap of faith and going for these higher upside pongers and stuff like that, or are you looking to just try and play the averages?
Yeah, it's a tough one because to me at the moment it's coming down to do I pick Kalen Ponga and Lauren Brown, who's a halfback who used to be a hooker and is still listed at hooker, versus say a Damien Cook, Harry Grant, even Tom Starling being floated around because of the
Yeah.
weird storm match up with the Rabbitohs. If they flog them, Harry Grant might go off early, and if they flog them, Cook might not do so well. But yeah, it'll either be one of those two plus maybe Palit or Upton, or Ponga plus Lauren Brown for me.
Okay. Awesome. I wish you all the best of luck, mate. I haven't actually jumped in and played, just been focused on the content, but I wish you luck on that one. It's good good to see you are doing well on that. Get a bit of a smile on your dial about fantasy this year, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So 21st. That'll be good fun. Alrighty. I think that might be it, mate. Anything else to say for this week?
Um, Ponga to score 40 if I play him in Mixer and 100 if I don't.
Okay. Right. To be fair, like is that because you might not pick him?
Yeah, it's going to be big or it's going to be okay. Like, I don't think there's going to be a middle ground.
That's very fair. These last sort of 3, 4, 5 rounds are sad because there's not many people have any trades, so there's less to talk about. But thanks for jumping on again, mate. 4 weeks to go, or 5 weeks to go, and we'll catch you everyone. Hope you had a cracking evening and you enjoyed listening to Scoop's voice as always.